Welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat podcast, your one-stop shop for daily Miami Heat content. This is the post-game show. The Miami Heat lost to the Detroit Pistons in overtime in Detroit, 125 to 124, in a pretty embarrassing loss. The Miami Heat's 4-game win streak is now over, and this team played like shit until the fourth quarter, honestly, and overtime. And the first 3 minutes of overtime, they played really well. Last 2 minutes, they played like crap. So this Miami Heat team just finds new ways to lose. Again, a good team doesn't find ways to lose. A good team finds ways to win in different fashions and varieties. And you can't lose to the Detroit Pistons. Like, this is the second time we've lost to them now in overtime. The first game was when Spo called that timeout and we got a technical foul because we didn't have any timeouts. Now the Miami Heat just didn't show up except for Jimmy Butler in that first or just in that whole game in general. No one showed up today except for Jimmy and then Tyler in the fourth quarter, and he helped the Miami Heat obviously get to overtime, and then he played horribly in overtime. But either way, that we're not in that game without Jimmy and Tyler specifically in that fourth quarter. But still, that's a game you can't lose. Detroit Pistons are a young and up-and-coming team. They're not good, and they had control of this game from the start. In the first quarter, the Miami Heat were down by 8 rather quickly in the first few minutes. So Detroit, they were playing really well. Defensively, Asar Thompson was just really hard to get by, playing really good point of attack defense, and they were hitting threes. Cade Cunningham and Malik Beasley were playing really well. We'll get to Beasley later, who is a certified Miami Heat scrub killer, which is just annoying and frustrating. But he and Cade were playing really well in that first quarter, but so was Jimmy Butler. Jimmy was aggressive to start the game out, and he kept the Miami Heat in it. And the Miami Heat were able to finish the first 2 quarters well, even though they were down by I don't know if they're down by double digits in the first quarter. They're down by 8 at least. Second quarter, they're down by double digits. But Jimmy Butler helped the Heat come back essentially in the first quarter. They were down by 1. It was 32 to 33 after the Heat, again, were down by 8 early. Second quarter, Pistons, again, just defensively were playing great and hitting a bunch of threes. I think they hit their first 7 of 9 threes in that game. But again, Jimmy Butler being really aggressive, getting to the free throw line, scoring in the paint, helped us come back, and we only lost that quarter by 3 points. So going into half, we were down by 4. And then the third quarter was resurrected as the Miami Heat only scored 22 points. Pistons scored 34, so they took that 12-point advantage. And we're up by 16 going into the fourth. And they were just shooting lights out, throughout that game, especially from 3. They did end up shooting 50% on the night on 20 for 40 from 3, which was just brutal. The Miami Heat shot like shit from 3, and that's like our recipe for disasters. If we're not shooting well from the 3-point range, we're not getting to the paint. We're not finishing at the rim. Bam has been struggling. Terry Rozier has been struggling in the paint, and not many people can get to the paint. We don't have many 3-level scorers. So if we're not hitting threes, we're screwed. The Heat shot 28%. But either way, horrible third quarter. And the Heat were down by 16 going into the third. They're down by 18, 19 points at most in the fourth quarter. And then with the last 4 or 5 minutes, they finally woke up. And Tyler Hero had 10 points going into the fourth quarter. I think he had 13 in the fourth quarter alone. And the Miami Heat found themselves down 92 to 107 in the fourth and made a huge, furious comeback. They went on like a 14-0 run. The Heat were down 104 to 112, and Hero hit a big 3. They're down 101 to 112 as they're creeping in. Excuse me, I can't even think of a word. That's not even a good word. As they were creeping back into the game, they're down 101 to 112. Tyler hit a big 3. Next possession, Rozier cuts backdoor, and then Jimmy finds Rozier for that layup. The Heat are down 106 to 112. Then Tyler Hero comes back down, hits a huge 3. Heat are down 109 to 112. Next possession, Jimmy gets a layup, and the Heat are only down by 111 to 112. And Cade Cunningham gets fouled on the other end, and he hits 2 free throws, so the Heat are down by 3, 111 to 114. And Tyler Hero, we all know, hits that miraculous 3-pointer at the end of the game with 2 seconds left. It looked like he got fouled too. The refs, they were horrible last night, but we still shouldn't have been in that game anyway. So like the fact that we made that comeback is great, but still like we shouldn't have had relied on the refs essentially, because we played horrible all game long until the last few minutes of that fourth quarter. But Tyler did hit that three. Cade Cunningham did shoot a three at the buzzer, missed it. We go into overtime. This is when it gets interesting. The Miami Heat go on an 8-0 run. We start off that overtime with a alley-oop to Bam Adebayo from Terry Rozier. We get a Jimmy Butler layup in the paint. And then we get Duncan Robinson hitting back-to-back layups to put the Miami Heat up by 8. And Detroit calls a timeout. There's 2 minutes left in overtime. You're up by 8. And Jimmy Butler actually also scores a bucket in the paint off an offensive rebound when he had one shoe. And as he was trying to that was actually, no, excuse me. This is after the comeback. Sorry. The Heat are down by 8. And then Tim Hardaway goes on a barrage, hits 3 threes in a row. And the Heat are now down by 1. So the Heat go on an 8-0 run to start the overtime. They allow the Pistons to go on a 9-0 run by Tim Hardaway. Jimmy Butler comes back down with, I forgot how much time, like 30 seconds left or so. Loses his shoe, but gets a offensive rebound, puts the ball into the hoop. The Heat are up by 1, and then he can't run back on defense with one shoe, so he has to sit down, put his shoe on, and so it's a 5-on-4 break, and then Cade Cunningham gets a bucket in transition, and Miami Heat calls a timeout. They're down by 1 with 6 seconds left, or more than that actually, but the controversy here too was that Jimmy Butler got fouled on a play. People thought that the Heat were in the bonus, but we weren't. But the issue also was that Jimmy Butler was in a shooting motion when he was going to put a putback. He missed the layup, got his own rebound, put it back, got fouled, and they didn't call it a shooting foul. People thought we're in the bonus, but we weren't in the bonus. The NBA refs would not miss something like that. That would be egregious if the Miami Heat were in the bonus and they didn't get free throws. But either way, they said it was on the floor. Heat ball, 6 seconds left. We inbound the ball. We're trying to get Jimmy on an action downhill. So Jimmy Butler should have got the ball, but he was covered very well. We give the Tyler Hero top of the key, and he has Jalen Duren on him. And with 6 seconds left, instead of trying to go downhill to get a foul, to get to the free throw line, or to shoot a 2-point shot, he instead tries to do a crossover sidestep 3-pointer with 3 seconds left. Granted, takes that shot like a 26-footer and misses it, and the Miami Heat lose. So I think it's an embarrassing loss. Again, you can't lose to the Detroit Pistons, young and up-and-coming team. Another game where the Miami Heat have lost by only 3 points. That's 6 times this season they've lost by 3 or less. This is the second overtime game they've been in against Detroit, lost both of them. And you just can't be in a situation where you just played that horribly offensively all, throughout the game and then finally wake up in the end. And against the Detroit team that didn't have their starting point guard, who's up and coming and playing really well, Jaden Ivey wasn't playing today. Tobias Harris, who's their veteran, scores 14 points per game, wasn't playing today. Isaiah Stewart, who's their energizer bunny, like 6th man, 7th man off the bench, who's one of the best offensive rebounders in the NBA, got hurt in the second quarter, basically early in the second quarter, and missed the entire game. So they were missing important key folks in their rotation, in their starting lineup, and they still were able to win. So they had no excuses for being short and having less folks on the court available, and they still won. Like, you can't lose to a team that's young and bad, that doesn't have their starting point guard, who's a really good player, one of their probably top 3 best players on their team, one of their best veterans, and Tobias Harris was not playing. So it's pathetic. It's not the end of the world. It's a loss, but it's just frustrating that this Miami Heat team, just finds ways to lose all the time. Like, I'd rather have been blown out than getting my hopes up with that game. But either way, the Miami Heat play the Thunder next. We are still 5th in the East, 13-11, top 10 in offensive rating and defensive rating, but we're 13-11. Like, that just doesn't sit right with me. Like, how are we 13-11 if we're top 10? That's all recent, obviously, but we're top 10 in offense and defense. Like, we should be a better team. We should have a better record, but this Miami Heat team, again, finds different ways to lose games. They've blown 4 or 5 double-digit leads in the third, fourth quarter. Lost to the Toronto Raptors, one of the worst teams in the NBA, Detroit Pistons twice now. So they just need to figure it out. Like, they had a really good win streak, and I don't want this to be fool's gold where, their offense has been amazing. Their rebounding has been great, except for last night, of course. Bam, we didn't even talk about him. Needs to step up, but he was playing really well during that 4-game win streak. Kind of reverted back to not really contributing a ton offensively. Um, if you look through the box, though, Jimmy Butler, I didn't even mention, he had a triple double. Like, we blew a game where Jimmy Butler had a triple double 35, 19 career high rebounds, 10 assists. He was 12 for 21 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, 10 for 12 from the free throw line, 1 block, 4 steals, 0 assists. How the fuck do you lose a game with Jimmy Butler putting up those numbers against the fucking Detroit Pistons? Sorry for my language. That's just embarrassing. Last game against Detroit in overtime, Tyler had 40 points and we lost. Like, that's going to make or break our season right there. Like, when it comes to the play-in race or getting a better seed, like losing these 2 games plus the Toronto game. Don't get me started on the game against the Kings where we lost the buzzer beater, or against the Suns where we didn't even get a 3-point, or we didn't even get a shot off basically at the end of the game, or against the Bucks where we're up by double digits and lost by 3. Like, there's so many more games that were close. These are the types of games that can screw over your season. So Jimmy was freaking spectacular. Bam, 15 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 6 for 12 from the field, 2 for 2 from the line, 1 steal. He was fine. Tyler, again, shot like shit, but he brought us back, so kudos to that. But 23 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 9 for 25 from the field, 4 for 17 from 3, dude. Like, come on, man. You got to stop shooting those threes if you're not making them. Try to get to the paint, which you've been doing a lot better in. He didn't do that good. Duncan played great, 13 points, 5 for 10 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3. Haywood Highsmith barely played. He had 3 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Terry Rozier, decent off the bench, 11, 5, and 6, but he was 3 for 8 from the field. Drew Smith continuing to play in a great role. It's 31 minutes, 7 points, 2 assists, 6 steals, only 1 turnover. He looked really good. Jaime, again, can't hit a 3 if his life depended on it. He had 13 points, 1 rebound, 4 assists, 5 for 12 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. Kevin Love looks old and slow. He still can rebound, 4 points, 5 rebounds. He was 2 for 5 from the field. That was just a frustrating loss. If we look on the other end real quick, the Miami Heat scrub killer tonight was Beasley, 28 points on 9 for 18, 7 for 13 from 3. That just destroyed us. Cade, triple-double, great player, 20, 11, and 18 assists, unreal. He killed us. Jalen Duren, 9 points, 16 rebounds. Tim Hardaway, 5 for 10 from 3, 16 points. That absolutely destroyed us, and nothing else notable, really, from the bench. But anyway, that's all I have for this horrible post-game episode. The Miami Heat played the Thunder on Friday. God, we have 3 more days off, and the Miami Heat are going to be playing the best team in the West, or maybe the NBA. So it'll be frustrating to see them beat the Thunder and lose to the Pistons. But who knows? Hopefully we can keep it competitive and win the next game. So anyway, that's all I have. Thanks for watching.